Recording in.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello,
Hello.
how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm a zombie. I don't know if you noticed, like on the first call, I was distracted a lot. I had a sick dog and he kept me up all night, Monday night, partial night. He's better now. I had to get up. I was up all night with him at 5 in the morning on Tuesday. I took him to urgent care. I had a new dog sitter and she gave him something with cartilage that he was throwing up and it damaged some of his, irritated his intestinal tract. And I had to get him x-rayed to make sure that there wasn't any left in it. And yeah, and so
Ugh.
It takes me, I don't drink coffee, so it takes me about 2 days when I have a sleepless, 2 or 3 days to catch up. So I'm a little zombie right now, just trying to get work done. I just had to coach somebody, but I'm doing what I can.
I was gonna say, what about a soda or something?
Oh, I don't drink caffeine.
Neither do I. So, but there are natural things that can help. Anyway,
Yeah, it's okay. I'm getting my work done. I didn't get my homework done, but I figured, you know what, I have till Monday because we just got everything on Monday. So I got the book and then I can start going through everything this weekend and get a routine going.
I
But
came in late. Are you sick?
no, I had a sick dog. So during our first call, he was trying he was having trouble and I didn't get to sleep Monday night, but he's okay now.
Okay.
So I had a bad pet sitter who gave him something with cartilage in it and he threw it up and we had to get him x-rayed at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning to make sure it wasn't any left in his system. And yeah. So I'm a little sleep deprived, but hey, I did have a question for you, Cheryl. Is there any way to get a transcript of that sample call? Because as I'm coaching with my clients, I was thinking about some of those questions and things and I really wanted to start implementing now, right? And there were some
yeah.
great questions and shifts there. And is there any way to do like an audio transcript of it, or at least to get like his questions? I don't know. Or can we get a
Um,
link to hear it again? Because I'd like to put a little more
so I have
intention
to,
more intention into thinking about it.
yeah, so I'd have to see about permission for that. I have permission to use it in the class,
Okay.
but that's all I have so far. So
Okay.
I can find out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to go through it again with because you had said you really liked, some of the questions and how they switched the emotional component. And so now after the fact, I'm like, okay, well, now I'm now really curious about, like, I want to hear it with those eyes again, those ears again. Now, like I have like that prompt because I've been thinking about it and even just a couple shifts. I already made a few shifts in some of my coaching calls where I would have been more directive and kind of, or re-summarized and already started shifting, trying to apply some of the thought processes. And, so anyway, if it's available to listen to again or something, it would be great.
We're also going to listen to others. So
Okay, yeah, but you said you really liked how we did
I do really like that one, but
subtleties, and I missed them,
yeah,
and so I'm here to learn, and I wanna get see what I missed.
yeah,
So anyway, that's just my,
yeah. So I'll see if I can get that.
if possible,
Okay.
even if we could just run it from like once, and then take it down again, I don't know, but, that would be great.
Okay, doke.
I'm leaning in.
Yeah, good. Okay, any other questions, you or Bonnie?
Nope, just trying to absorb. I know that this discomfort will go away a couple of weeks in, and so it's just trying to get oriented and used to the platform. And
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not at my desk, I'm on the couch, so I don't have that nice light on my face, so I'm a little in the dark.
looks like you're floating in blue sky.
Yeah, well, it's my company background because I work in the house and I want my partner to be able to walk around freely and not, and if I took it off right now, you would just, I'm in front of windows behind me. So you would just have glare. You can almost see a little of the glare behind me, like the little halo because I'm sitting against the window. If I turn this way, you'd see me really well, but I can't sit that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was great lighting.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, fortunately, I'm not, yeah, I said I just, I'm trying to be comfortable. So we're gonna be sit for 2.5 hours. I don't need to sit in my hard office chair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I can get more light on me.
So, today we are talking about ethics and what we're going to do. I hear some background noise, like a TV or something.
Oh, sorry, no, oh, that's not me. I don't
Hang on
know.
a second. Let me see. That could be me.
Yeah, not me, because I have a headset on. I tried to put more light in the room, but no.
Got better?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay. So we'll go through the material. We'll stop and ask for questions as well. There's a lot of material on the ethics and also how emotional intelligence plays into ethics. And then we'll take a break somewhere in there. And then when we come back, we'll listen to another recording. And this time you guys are actually, I'm going to assign you core competencies to listen for in the, so we're jumping right in. I'm going to give you core competencies to listen to in that recording. And you can just use that form to take notes, the feedback form. And then we'll have a discussion afterwards about it. So that's, I always like that first, diving deep into it. The other thing I wanted to do was give you I'm going to put it right in here. So something just to let you know, as an FYI, but the course portal, something got messed up. Like it took old stuff and mixed it with new stuff. So we're actually creating that whole lesson portal part over again. So as soon as that's available, it should be before next Monday. Then I'm just going to link it in. You won't even know, but except that you'll see the things that are missing will be there. So it'll be linked in there by the end of the week. So what I want to give you here in the chat is the markers. In their own document. Which is why everything's spinning today.
Yeah, my internet hasn't been wonderful today either. We have clouds. Has rained for the first time in months.
Yeah, it's just spinning now. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll do it at some point. It'll stop spinning. And I'll put it in the chat for you. Okay. So I think, was there anything else from Monday? I don't think so. I think we covered everything.
Yeah, and then if there's cues like on this video to listen to, so to know what we're looking for, because I think when you mentioned that piece afterwards, I'm like, oh, I wish I had heard that when I was listening to it. So any cues on what you want us to focus on on the call? I know we're going to be, you want us to hear it. If you want us to hear it with fresh ears, that's fine. But like after the fact, I'm like, dang it, I wish I had known those cues, right? Because I would have
Yeah.
noticed it more.
And what I could do is just stop more often. Or,
That would help me.
yeah, and kind of highlight things, but because I don't really have it like written down to tell you ahead of time. It's like as we're going through it.
Okay.
But that's a good idea for me to do that. I like that idea. So maybe I will do that for because we'll be listening to a few of them throughout the course.
Because they were just so, you said they were very subtle but powerful,
Yeah.
and I feel like I'm just like I've been trying to
There'll
play
be
it over my head.
timestamp too, so you could, even if you had a list of timestamps and a question or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I mean, I have
that-
those transcripts, so I can easily do that. So that's what I'll do is I'll make a little document with
Yeah.
all the
and we can-
recordings, and this way the other instructors can pick up on it as well. So that's a good idea.
good
Yeah, and
consistency
even to go
too.
back, oh, sorry, go ahead, Bonnie.
I was just said that it would help with consistency too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm gonna do that.
Because
Thank
we
you.
could then afterwards, we could have gone back and like there was probably a 5-minute section where I thought it was being redundant and he was actually adding subtle differences. So we could have gone back and like pick listen to that section again or something.
Yeah.
I know you have a
Yeah.
time frame for it, but I'm like, I'm a little obsessing about the fact that I missed the subtlety, so yes.
I just can't believe
Okay.
you did it in 30 minutes. That just blows my mind.
Yeah, most of the ones that we listen to are
Yeah.
between 30 and 40 minutes.
That's amazing because I have such a hard time getting people out the door at 59.
Well, you'll learn it. I mean, 60 minutes, if that's your model, that's fine. But,
No, it's tiring.
yeah, so 30 to 40 minutes is a good time frame for sessions. Now, some of them, like executive coaching, sometimes it goes longer, or sometimes they're laser sessions. So it really depends.
Yeah, I will
But
tell you, I'll tell you, Bonnie, I can do some pretty powerful 15-minute coaching.
yeah,
I
the
would
laser coaching
love
is
that.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Yep.
And I do
Yeah.
that as well. I do laser coaching, which is 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, you
Oh.
can shift, yeah, because especially if they're coming in with something very specific and you
Mhm.
can figure out what the topic is pretty quickly and just get into
Yeah.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, most of my coaching sessions are 1 hour, except for my foundation session, which is 90 minutes to 2 hours.
Yeah, most people, I mean, so most coaches go between 30 and 60 minutes. Your onboarding might be 90 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And then in
And then if
therapy
you have
though, oh,
if
go
you
ahead.
have group coaching could be 90 minutes versus the one-on-ones.
And I say in therapy, we get to talk about our stories more. In coaching, you don't want them to go into their stories because you don't want
That's
them
right.
to become attached to the stories and live in the past because we're forward looking. So you don't always
Yep.
get that opportunity in coaching to go, or in therapy, I get to talk about the whole story bigger and get it out. And the only time I allow my clients to do that is if they need a clearing.
Yeah. And that we talk about that through the courses, like don't get lost in the story and don't let the clients get lost in their story.
Yeah,
Um,
that's in designing my alliance. We talk about it, that I'm going to intrude and ask them the bottom line, and this is why I do it. So I just
Yeah.
onboarded a client, so I just went through that literally right before this call. Yeah.
All right, I put the PCC markers in the chat and it finally stopped spinning.
So you want us to print that out for when we do the call?
Well, that's just for you. Print out the feedback form, or you don't even have to print it out. You can keep it on your computer because it's fillable. And there's a drop down menu. You can put yes, no, or somewhat
Okay.
that they accomplished it and put notes in it.
Okay.
And you don't have to save it either. You can just do it because you're going to be doing that throughout the course. You're going to be paying attention to the competencies. You'll be assigned different competencies. And so you'll use that form to give the feedback. If you want to have this open as well, that's good.
So how's this different from the other one that's in boxes?
It's not, it's just in one place and doesn't have the feedback or yes or no. The feedback form is for feedback. This is just the competencies by themselves. It's the document that the ICF gives us for it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, put it into an ICF folder in your course folder if you have it on your computer. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So chapter 2 is today, ethical grounding in coaching. Ethics is knowing the difference between what you have a right to do and what is right to do. That's by Potter Stewart. So what are ethics in coaching? Basically, ethics, they're not just guidelines. Some people think of them as guidelines, but really they're a commitment. So as ICF coaches, we commit to acting with integrity, honoring confidentiality when appropriate. There's some reasons why we wouldn't, and just really prioritizing the welfare of our clients. And the ICF Code of Ethics serves to uphold the integrity of the ICF and the global coaching profession by setting standards of conduct that are consistent with the ICF core values. I don't go over the core values, but they are uploaded in the Upwork. You can download the ICF core values, but really that's what they use for the ethics and also for the competencies. So I don't know if you guys can see this. Can you see it? All right. Let's see if I can make it bigger. Oh, there we go. So when we are able to understand and internalize ethics, it helps our individual practices excel. It helps us for our clients to feel safe. It helps our clients feel connected with us because we're doing things to make sure that we are inclusive and that we look at them as a person and not a number or somebody that's kind of returning through our programs or what have you. But it not only helps us to have a credible business for ourselves, it just helps with the credibility of the coaching profession. And if you've ever heard anybody out there talk badly about coaches, typically those coaches are not certified or credentialed coaches. Now, when the ones that do kind of semi-ethical things, or at least they're not ICF, I shouldn't say that, they're not ICF certified or credentialed coaches. Because I've actually known some credentialed coaches that have done sketchy things, and or even their comments or things are not like very professional or uplifting or inclusive or what have you. And typically they're the ones that have taken programs that are not under this ICF umbrella because they don't have an ethical conduct really to follow. So we want to help, we want to, of course, help our own businesses, but we want to help the industry as a whole. And we do that by getting certified and then credentialed and following these ethics. And basically ethics serve as the foundation of trust and integrity in our relationships. And it allows the clients to be protected, and it also helps them to, grow in a respectful and professional environment. So we commit to upholding these standards of confidentiality, professionalism, and respect to all individuals. And then the heart of ethical coaching is connected to the principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion through the lens of emotional intelligence. So this is where we kind of bring in emotional intelligence and DE&I. And I think that some people also have an old vision of what DE&I is. And I just had a debate with somebody last week, who all they thought that was that like one person gets hired over another at a job. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that is just like not what DE&I is really all about. And so we have to look at it through that lens of coaching and through the lens of emotional intelligence. So why is DE&I important? Because it makes sure that our approach to each client is individualized, first of all, that we appreciate who they are as an individual. We appreciate their background. We appreciate their culture and their experiences. And it allows for the coaching environment to be respectful and supportive, but also enriches that deeper understanding of who the client is, their goals. It helps them to reach, helps us to help them to reach their goals and understand where they're coming from when they talk to us, right? Because if we go in blindfolded kind of and not being open to other cultures or other people's experiences, then it cuts off the depth of questions that we can ask, the depth of summarizing what we're hearing or feeling, and being able to reflect that back to the client. It limits really coaching overall as a whole. So really looking at making sure that we are, again, looking at the whole of the client, and that we're building up ethical coaching, that we are saying, okay, we're going to build rapport, trust, and intimacy. We're going to have that effective communication, and we're going to notice things about our clients, take that into consideration as we work with our clients. And then when we look at emotional intelligence, this just basically means that we're using our ability to understand and manage our own emotions as well as the emotions of others to kind of guide our behavior and the decision making. So when we look at it in the context of DE&I, it involves being aware of our own bias, which everybody has, by the way. As far as I know, there's nobody that can say I have absolutely no bias. But being able to treat people of all different backgrounds with empathy and kind of adjusting how we interact with people to make sure that we're inclusive and equitable. And so active listening, being aware of, again, that different culture and emotional expressions and responding with sensitivity and respect. So just thinking about bias, which is interesting. I did some work on bias about two years ago. I joined a workshop and about DE&I and bias. And I learned so much. And the first thing that we did is identified 3 top bias that we had. So just kind of ask you guys, what kind of a bias are you aware of, if any? Kind of think through that. That's part of your journaling as well tonight for the homework assignment for this chapter. But kind of think through anything that stick out. Now, by the way, there's no judgment here, right? If you have a bias and you're working on it, if you have a bias that you need to become aware of and dive deeper into, that just means you're growing. So there's no judgment. But what kind of bias, if any, are you guys aware of in yourselves?
I don't know if it's politically correct to say what my bias is. But my bias is that anybody that still supports Trump, I would look at as an idiot. And I would have a trouble, I don't have problem coaching people of different political backgrounds. But I think that if someone was obviously a MAGA at this point, I would have difficulty removing that bias if I was coaching them.
Yeah. And that's a good one because I myself am against Trump. And again, not if you are for Trump, Bonnie, this is not an attack on you, but or anybody that believes in Trump. But I have family members that are Trump supporters, and so I have to be, I had to, I should say, remove as much as possible that bias. Now, in a general way, I still have that bias, but I don't assign it to people.
See, I
So
don't
I don't know.
care what somebody's views are. I only care that they call somebody an idiot that doesn't have their view.
Yes.
Meaning that I feel like each person should be allowed to have their view. The problem is when you call them an idiot for it. And
Right.
you don't have to agree, you don't have to like it. And that's where we allow diversity. But as soon as you put a label on it, now you've just insulted somebody, and then you couch it and say, well, I wouldn't want to offend anybody, but they are idiots, right? So it sort of undoes the whole, yeah, it just undoes. For me, I also have a political bias. I also have a bias concerning medicines and vaccines and those kinds of things because I'm trained in natural stuff. And I have a bias for sure I'll have one in religion, and I have none concerning skin color.
Yeah. So yeah, religion is another big one that people have bias. So politics, religion, are kind of those belief systems.
Yeah, the other one
And
I have is I have when people have victim energy. And I'm talking as a coach. I'm not talking as a human.
yeah.
I am talking if someone came in with a lot of victim energy, I would have to work to get back to neutral on that, right? Now, I typically don't attract people with victim energy as to be, for the type of coaching I do. But I'll give you an example. I had a guy claim to be like the white man victim, right? Because of a job went to somebody else. And we have a phenomenal relationship still years later, but it took me, I really had to catch myself on that and be like, okay, that is his perspective.
Mhm.
I said in my head all I needed to say about that.
Yeah.
Right. And then I was like, and I had to, but I was live while this was going on. And I had to quickly, I think I've gotten good at saying, let go, come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, but that was an interesting one for me. I think that I do have a bias when it comes to talking about coaching, like if somebody leads with money first, that money is their concern. I'm typically not their coach, right? If the reason they want to hire me is because they want to make more money. I remember like when I was working with my first branding person and I said that I asked him like, so what do you want in life? Because I want to be a billionaire. And I'm like, so why do you want to be a billionaire? What's important about that to you? And he said, I want to make impact in the world. I said, so if you can make all that impact in the world without being a billionaire, would that meet your need? And he said, no. I said, I want to be a billionaire. I said, then I would pass you off to somebody else as your coach because that's not a motivation that I can, that I support. Not that I would be a fit for a coach. I think there's some people that are more driven and more of an alignment to you on that goal. Right.
Yeah.
So at that point, and this was just an example. He was a branding guy helping me and we were just working on that. And that was just a conversation where like, so there's bias and there's fit, I guess, sometimes, but,
Yeah, I don't think you have to, like, in your own practice, you want to work with people that you're going to align with. So it's not saying that just because just because you have a preference or a specific person that you want to work with makes you have a bias in that area.
No.
But but it is something to examine. Like, why don't I want to work with that client? And as long as you're comfortable with your answer, then that's fine, because we do have to have really good boundaries around who we're going to coach. And that's something, especially as you're starting your business, because as we start a business, we tend to take anybody in for coaching, right? And actually, I know there's a lot of people out there that put that down. I don't find that to be very hard, like very bad for you. I think you get to learn who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with. The areas that either like, and I'm just going to use my words, but like maybe areas that bore you, or areas that you don't feel like you're a good fit and you feel uncomfortable with, or what have you. Like, you learn that by coaching different people. And then you start to get picky, because you've seen the different areas and you've seen how you're helping people in different topics and different problems or goals. And so then you can start to feel like, okay, this is kind of my jam, or this is where I fit in this niche. And so I think that that's good. But we just have to be careful of like why we segment out people.
Well, I think in this case, he was really looking more for a business coach than an ICF coach.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, in that case, his example was like more like, what he really wants is someone to help him figure out how to make money.
Yep.
He wanted a Mark Cuban type mentor, not a ICF coach that's going to help him figure out how he was looking for the shortcut, right? To the
Yeah.
money,
Yeah.
right? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that there's like people who aren't coaching, I met somebody that that was just wanted to vent, wanted to complain, wanted me to be a positive affirmation of everything versus challenging him. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm the coach for you, because I think you need some, or there was just something about him, his personality, right? And I think it's more, do I feel like I can show up the best way for this person? And if I
Yeah.
can't, and then if I can't, if there's a bias, or I just don't think it's a fit, or there's a chemistry off, then then I will, fortunately I come from a world of knowing a zillion coaches. So
Yeah. You can work through it.
yeah, I have other people that might be a better fit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And you can work through your own stuff. If you can't figure out why, then you can work through it and you can figure it out, later afterwards, which is
But
fine. But
it's chemistry too, right? For the client too. I mean, I've had people who I had great chemistry with, but they wanted someone who was a parent. There was nothing about me being a parent that would affect how I coach or don't coach, but in their eyes it did. So that's
right.
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think that that's bias. I think that that's alignment, which is fine. I'm just saying, maybe check in with that every once in a while if you find yourself not aligning with more people or on a regular basis. And especially as,
Like, I
go
think
ahead.
bias has a differentiator in that it has an implicit hierarchy in it, a superiority inferiority component to it, and that I think is what causes the problem, because people want to look eye to eye, and as soon as you look down on or one down somebody because you don't appreciate, fill in the blank about them, I think that's where it becomes a problem. Acknowledging differences. For
Yeah.
example, in counseling, I don't like to counsel suicidal people. In part, I'm an empath, and in part, I'm on a green card in America, and Americans, if outside of America, America is known to sue, right? And so there's a bias, and so
Yeah.
they scare me.
Yeah.
It feels like I could make a mistake and end up sued, and so I could possibly really help them, but there's right, and in that case, it's not. Well, it is a little.
It's a bias, but is it a justified bias, or is it a fear that, like you said, they scare you? Is it a fear that you can put some things in place to remove some of that? Like, so it's something you'd have to unpack. But that's a good example. I understand that. So that's And that might be alignment as well. Piece of it sounds like it's
No, I'm
alignment.
trained. I just don't like it.
Okay.
Yeah, us,
So,
us,
yeah,
we're a very litigious country, unfortunately. Yes, I mean that's
yeah,
why I have to like, oops, my, I make sure I have my insurance, right, for my coaching, even insurance for my business, because people are litigious in this country. That is a very good perception.
yeah, yeah. Okay, let's move on. So, next section is our responsibility to clients, and this comes from the ICF. So, it's guided by those ethics. It includes confidentiality and privacy, identifying, disclosing, and managing potential conflicts of interest, and identifying and balancing the power distribution within a coaching relationship. We're going to get into that power distribution in the course. I want to give you
So can I ask an example on that? So at one company, I was coaching the employee and the boss, right? And I'm good at segmenting it, but I did want them to, I thought it was fair. And well, actually the company that hired me to coach made sure they knew that I was coaching both of them.
yes, and now so the example I was going to give was I was well, it's not the same, but it's similar. I was dating somebody and I was coaching a friend of mine, or like a semi-friend, not a close friend, but an acquaintance, I'll say. And I found out that they were dating each other as well. We weren't exclusive, but they were dating each other as well. But as soon as I found that out, I was like, all right, I got to lose a client and I'm losing the guy that I'm dating. So, but yeah, so I had to go and talk to, just get out of the relationship and then get out of the coaching relationship.
Dating
So
clients is bad.
I'm sorry.
Dating clients is bad. Very bad.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
no, I wouldn't date a client. I was dating one person and I was coaching someone else. They were dating too. So it's still a compromise because he's dating me and he's dating somebody else that I'm coaching. That's just not like kosher. So I was like, no.
No, thank you.
So anyway, there's some other aspects of power distribution as well besides the conflicts of interest. So we're going to talk through a few different areas. So, but let's look at confidentiality and privacy. So there's basic elements in coaching to build trust and create a safe space for clients to open up and explore their thoughts and feelings. This means that any information that's shared by the client during our sessions is protected and not disclosed without specific permission, unless, we're going to get to the unless in a second, because there are some caveats, but some examples of upholding confidentiality: session notes, so keeping notes that are securely stored and not shared with anyone else unless the client is giving consent or there's a legal obligation to do so. And I'm going to give you a quick example. I have a CRM system that I use. My assistant has access to my CRM. I make sure that my notes are not viewable to anybody else but me in that system. So if she goes in the system and she needs to pull contact information, because I say, hey, can you email so-and-so and let them know that, whatever, we have to reschedule, or, something's coming out or whatever. And she has to go in and get that contact information. She can't see my notes. And that's protection. That's confidentiality.
Yeah, and for me, I use simply.coach as my management tool for my clients, and now I use the Zoom AI summary, so I don't have to take notes, but I disclose that to my clients, and I say, using the AI summary, it's something I can, besides my paper notes, it's something I can refer to before our next call. Are you okay with that? Right? It's no one else
Yeah,
has access to it. And so that's something I check in with because it allows me to not have to take as many notes and be more present on the
yeah,
call. So that's an example of what I do. And then the other thing on confidentiality I talk about is that I do have to market my business to find leads, and if I can use anecdotes from our session. I said I don't do anything identifying, like this woman I'm coaching at company XYZ that's a VP in marketing, right? But that, I come up with ideas like a quote or something from our thing that would be a really great content. Or when people are trying to look for examples, I can say I work with this client who had this challenge. And, so I do ask for permission to use anecdotal information in our Designing the Alliance session.
yeah. And that's fine. You don't have to do that. As long as you're not giving any identifying information, you don't have to ask for permission, but it's good to let people know that you're going to do it.
Yeah, because most of them are following me on LinkedIn. I don't want them to be like, I saw this LinkedIn post. Was that about me? Right. So I want to make sure that they understand the intention behind it.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's, if that works for you, that's great. The only thing I do for that is testimonials. I'll have, I'll tell them, if you give me a testimonial, that gets put into my marketing, that gets put into my post, you're going to see that information. But anyway, so yeah, just making sure that we have our session notes secure. And even if you use a little notebook, which I use to supplement my system, I keep it in a locked cabinet, in my file cabinet. So it goes in that at night, because even in my own house, I don't want anybody else to access it. So we have to look at those confidentiality pieces. Case discussions, if you're discussing client cases for like for me, for supervision or training purposes, we want to change all, or marketing purposes, I could probably add that. You want to change all identifying information or details to protect the client's privacy. And that goes down to even like where they live. Just don't want to share any of that, no data really, in that way. And then technology use, talked about that. So if you're using a CRM system or a CMS system, and then also email, video calls, coaching apps outside of CMSs, even things like Telegram, Voxer, things along those lines, messaging systems, you want to make sure that it's secure. So the only way that you can access mine is by doing a password. Like I have a messaging system, is by entering a password. Unless I'm on it, then it's open, but I just will close my computer before I leave. So you can't get on my computer unless you have the passcode. So just, yeah.
On this, so in counseling, when it comes to video conferencing, we have to use a telehealth system. We're not allowed to use Zoom or FaceTime, or anything like that. So like this setup would not be allowed for me as a counselor. I have to pay for a CRM or a medical based program that allows video conferencing called telehealth. So are we required to do that, or are we just
No, the reason why you're required that is because, well, in the US is because of HIPAA laws. And that's why you have to go through a system that's specific for medical or mental health. But coaching, no, you're able to use Zoom or Skype or whatever. There's a ton out there, whatever you want to use.
Well, what does telehealth provide me that Zoom doesn't? Because it's clearly a difference in the ethical standard around this. So what does a telehealth system offer by way of HIPAA that Zoom does not for coaching?
Yeah, so well, the first thing is I don't think the telehealth can take notes or anything, like you can't add an AI to it. So that would be one distinction, but really they're supposed to be encrypted, that in a way that creates more confidentiality than Zoom. Like Zoom is not encrypted. There's security around it, but it's not encrypted. Telehealth is supposed to be encrypted. Now, I don't know too much about the technical parts of it, but I know that it's encrypted. And so it's supposed to be a better security. And also, again, it kind of gives them a way to say, this is more secure. We're not just jumping on on a meeting software or meeting, webinar or whatever. Like you're getting a system that goes through our health system. You have to access it through our health system. You have, everything set up HIPAA wise. And, even when people sign up for telehealth, they have to say it's okay to get into it. You don't have to do that with Zoom. So there's other things, other security in place on a telehealth.
Okay.
That we don't need. So yeah, so that's some of the technology things. And then the legal exceptions, making sure that we know what the legal exceptions are to confidentiality, such as imminent harm to oneself or others around them. And some other things that we'll talk about, and just making sure that the clients know what those exceptions are. And that's something that you'll cover in your onboarding. You don't have to keep repeating it. You don't have to talk about it during your sessions, but it does need to be brought to their attention in their onboarding. Or if it's a concern in your consult, then bring it up then. But typically you want to make sure that it's in your contract. So anything that they're going to sign to work with you, have the code of ethics, or at the very least, the reasons why you would have to break confidentiality in that contract, so that they're signing that. And like to your point, Bonnie, for suing, if they're signing that it's okay, then, you know, they don't have recourse.
So can you put a public link to the ICF Code of Ethics in your contract?
You can, but what I do is just put the whole ethics in there.
You put it in the contract.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then I have,
Okay.
and
The
then I
reason
have,
that's actually really good because accessibility is an issue that they will measure in court. So if you provide a link and they don't have the access to that link for any reason at all, you have not adequately provided them with enough information to make informed consent.
yeah. And really, we don't want to get too much into the legality side, but the other thing you can do is you can link the ICF Code of Ethics and then take out, copy and paste the piece that talks about exceptions of breaking confidentiality and put that in the contract. So you can say, here's the full ICF Code of Ethics that I follow. Here's the pieces that I want to make sure that you understand and have that in there. But yeah, it's always been in my contracts.
Yeah, I can always put it, the full one as an amendment into the contract too, like a back page amendment, yeah. I don't have that, so I need to look at my contract.
I will get, just want to show you. Really quickly.
I change my background to make it, you do that
There.
a little brighter.
Where is it? Agreements. So I have this section, let's see. Yeah, so it has the ICF Code of Ethics, and then it says, I highlighted things like suggestions of self-harm or harming others. And, you know, have a list and say that this makes the confidentiality agreement null and void. So that's a way to do it. But again, you don't have to have the whole ethics in there, but just having, and I don't have that on a separate document, so.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So let's,
so as a therapist, I'm allowed to make that assessment. As a coach, what is the trigger for you to be able to declare a threat that would allow, so if certain legal limits, so there's some debate about whether or not lawyers or judges can subpoena stuff. There's certain things they can and certain things they cannot. An ex-spouse can't get spouse's counseling notes, for example, so it's not. But what is the trigger? Like, if I believe that somebody is being, say, elder abused or something, as a therapist, I can make that call. As a coach,
I'm gonna, after we're done this document, the chapter, I'm gonna show you a document that you have access to that goes way into detail of, actually talks about what the therapy side can do and what the coach can and can't do. So I'll show you that. Okay, so let's, it's so easy to chit chat when it's just three of us, but we need to keep moving on. So conflicts of interest, we want to identify, disclose, and manage any potential conflicts of interest. And some ways that we can navigate that is like remaining vigilant about situations where your interests could conflict with your clients. Regularly reflect on your relationship and activities outside of coaching to spot potential conflicts. And then disclosing the conflicts when you do spot something. So be transparent with the clients when a potential conflict is identified. discuss how the conflict might impact the coaching relationship, and work together to determine a way forward, which might be that you don't move forward. Managing conflicts of interest, establish clear boundaries and agreements on how to handle the conflict. Consider referring the client to another coach if the conflict cannot be resolved without impacting the coaching effectiveness. So some examples: if a coach is offered a financial incentive to refer clients to a particular service, they must disclose that to the client and may decide to refrain from making such referrals to maintain impartiality. Now, I will say that take that with a grain of salt. Most coaches have a referral system, and I pay other people to refer to me. People pay me to refer to them. And as long as I am upfront about it and tell people, it's fine. It's a big part of our industry. Referral marketing is a big part of our industry. And I would admit, I don't know for sure, but I would assume it's part of therapy as well, getting referred by previous, patients. But but if that seems like some people are uncomfortable discussing, like, having to tell a client, yeah, so-and-so referred you to me, and if you become a client, they will get a referral fee. Some people find that uncomfortable. And so then you just wouldn't do it. You don't have to do it, obviously. Another example is a coach who's also an investor in a company may face a conflict of coaching an executive of that company, where decisions could affect the financial interests of it. That situation has to be disclosed and an agreement on how to proceed. And it might be that you don't coach that relationship. But in either scenario or any scenario, it is the coach's responsibility to prioritize the client's welfare and the coaching relationship integrity above any personal or financial gain.
So here's a question. I mean, I happen to not have any more of my last company stock. I sold out all, but if I did, I now coach many people inside that company. Do I need to disclose that I'm still a stockholder, even though it's just okay?
Yep. Yeah, because you're making money from that company.
Yeah.
And so, especially if you're helping people make decisions that will come out financial decisions. Now, if you're lower level and it's not really too many decisions that will have impact on the bottom line of the company, maybe not. But I would just actually put it in my contract, a blurb saying, disclosure, I'm a stockholder of XYZ company, yada yada.
Okay.
Just so they know.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't have any more of their stock, but I am reaching out to all my old former companies, right, to work at, and so I have to see which ones I still have stock in.
Yeah. Okay, and then we want to look at, and that's a good point, is to kind of look at our other situations to see how or if it impacts our coaching or our client relationships. The next thing is kind of adjusting power dynamics in coaching relationships. And this is where we want to be aware, right? We have to create some awareness for ourselves about the potential power imbalances that can come up in relationships. Because as coaches, we hold a position of influence, and we don't ever want to have that influence translate into power. So we want to make sure it's not used. We want to make sure that we do what we can to dispel anything that might be building up. And there's different ways that power imbalance can come up. It can come up from professional status, knowledge, or even setting up the coaching session, which I'll talk about. But it can also come across in simple things like you might, when I talk about leading throughout the course, you're going to hear us talk about not to lead in your coaching sessions, right? So when we lead, we actually assert dominance. We are dominating the conversation by saying, this is the way we're going to go in this conversation, versus when we leave it up to the client and the client leads the session and determines the direction, then they have that power. They have the dominance of the session. So we don't ever want to set an agenda. We want the client to come up with their own agenda. We also want to make sure that we're not using jargon that talks above clients, or not even jargon, but language. I had a consult with a coach once, and I mean, I feel like I'm pretty intelligent, and I've worked in pretty high-end positions and had to have intelligent conversation, writing proposals, all that kind of stuff. But this coach talked at such a level that I felt like they were, trying to make me feel inferior. And I think I was in like 15 minutes into the consult and said, yeah, I don't think this is going to work and ended the consult. So you have to be careful how you're speaking to people, right? Yeah, you want to have some authority in your marketing. Like there's a good argument for being authoritative in your marketing because you're attracting the people that you want to work with. But in your actual coaching sessions, you don't want to do that. Some other things that we can look at that can create a power dynamic. Things like age, gender, race, socioeconomic status, or your own expertise or authority. So we need to make sure that we're playing down our expertise and authority as a coach. But there's a scenario here of H&M, and this is pretty routine. Like this happens a lot. So a younger coach working with a significantly older coach may find that the client defers too much to the coach's suggestions or wants their input too much due to some different things. Either they have a traditional respect for elderly people or older people, I should say, not necessarily elderly, or it could be based on their culture. So this is where the DE&I comes in as well. Knowing what their background is and knowing if that could be a potential problem because they have a culture that makes them defer to people that are older than or people that are more experienced than different areas like that. Especially the expertise and authority. So we have extensive experience usually coming into coaching in different areas. Like yours, Bonnie, would be in therapy, and then Allison's was in financial, making money, executive type situations. And so we bring a certain experience into it. But as coaches, we're using that to help guide us through the coaching process, like helping the client through the coaching process. We're not using it to show that expertise unless we do something like a course or something like that. I'm not talking about if you change things over to teaching, I'm talking about in the coaching arena. So so you might wind up coaching somebody that again asks for your input, and you might start dominating the sessions. And so we have to make sure that we pull back on that and turn it around to the client. And just basically, anytime that you see a client asking you your opinion or your thoughts on something, you need to start turning it back onto the client. Well, I have my own thoughts, but I'm more interested in learning what you think. Or, yeah, I have some experience with that, but I'd really like to know what your thoughts are on it or how you feel about it, right? So we want to make sure that we're asking questions and turning it back to the client.
Had to do that today.
Good.
And I remembered to do it.
Oh, awesome. Some other imbalances that might happen, a coach, if you have in-person sessions in your own office, it can come off as, you being authoritative. Nothing wrong with doing that, but you just need to kind of, maybe if you see somebody that's really like in that office space going, you're like, oh, they're really starting to defer to you and look at you as the authority, then maybe you take it outside the office, once or twice to kind of diffuse that. Also, having just frank discussions can be helpful. Other ways that you can correct imbalances: open communication, where the client feels free to voice any concerns. That's something that we should be really talking about in our consults and giving clients permission to do, because they may not feel like they have that permission. And that's a power imbalance right there. Them not thinking that they're free to discuss or question or voice any concerns. And so if you're doing that right from your consult, you're alleviating anything that could potentially develop there. Encourage collaborative goal setting to make sure the client maintains control, and then regularly reassess the relationship dynamics, seeking feedback from the client and being open to adjustments. And that's something that I actually teach for my coaches that I help with their businesses. I say, you need to do, and that's authoritative. I'm the consultant in that piece, but I say, halfway through your coaching relationship, do a check-in. And it's better to do a written one where you have specific questions laid out You send it to them, you say, hey, can you answer these questions and we'll discuss it, at the beginning of our next call. Or you can set a call out separate from their coaching and say, and then we could take 15 minutes, during such and such week and talk about it. But something that's going to allow them to assess the relationship and make sure that they identify any areas that they feel need to be improved upon, and also identify areas where they've gained traction, like they've had those successes. And you want them to notice that throughout the coaching, because it's very easy to get to the end of the coaching relationship and trying to gather everything up that's happened during 6 months, at the end can seem daunting, and the things get forgotten. So, do those check-in at least halfway through, but you might even do it, a third of the way through and then 2/3 of the way through. Always checking in with the client.
In counseling, I'm trained to use either measurement informed therapy or feedback informed treatment, so that you're giving an assessment before session and after session. And it not only talks about what the client is interested in, but the therapist gets feedback every single session, that in a way that it can be discussed in the session. So is there something similar to that in the coaching domain? Because I really like the metrics and the business tracking component of it. It's a fantastic guide.
Yeah. So there is it's a coaching call. It's actually in the Coaches Launch Lab, if you've gone in there yet. That's something that you guys were invited into. But I have a form in there that you can use. It's a pre-call and an after-call form. So you can get it. The pre-call helps the client to set up the call. So it makes them talk, kind of think through their goals for that session. The after-call sheet helps them look at what successes they've had and what things do they want to improve or change in the relationship, and what they're like, what they like that you've done, and some areas that maybe that they want to change or improve on. So yeah, there's 2 forms in there, and you can also create your own. It's what you think. You can take what you already have and just tweak it to coaching. That's fine as well. The only thing is not to take up the coaching session time, their time for coaching, but every session for that. That would probably not work, because they're, part of their.
It takes, I think, maybe a minute.
Okay, then that's fine. Like I said, you can use those forms and you can have those conversations, as often as you want.
It's scary to do when it's part of your routine. It helps.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look at these scenarios here. So the client confides that they are contemplating leaving their current job because they feel undervalued and have secretly received an offer from a competitor. So how might you handle this? The coach acknowledges the information and promises to keep it confidential, then proceeds to coach the client on evaluating their career options without directing them towards a decision. B, the coach advises the client to take the new offer, assuring them that they will keep the job offer a secret. C, the coach tells the client that they will need to inform the current employer due to a personal connection with the company.
That's obviously A.
Obviously. Yeah, we acknowledge it, we keep it confidential, and then we move on.
But I'll add to that too, is that, I do have corporate clients and they're paying, and when I have the kickoff call with their boss, it's like, I can't share with you anything that they tell me, right? So you understand that this is confidential, and that they know that there's no me checking in. All I can do, and when I check in, is they're showing up.
Right.
And they seem committed, and they're committed to the process, and they can share with you anything they choose to, but I can't.
Right. That's exactly what you have to do. Now, I do know some executive coaches that will, they have, like, if HR say if they're on improvement plans, that they'll want to know certain information. And in that case, as long as the client, the person that you're coaching, knows what information you have to disclose, then you can do it. It's limiting sometimes for the coaching, but as long as you're upfront about that and the company's upfront about it, and usually it's something that they sign, your coachee is going to sign something and it's in there, then that you can do that. But But yeah, as long as it, as long as everything's up front.
I'm coaching people who want to move up, not move up, so not, I'm
Yeah.
not in the PIP space, but yeah.
Okay, 2, a coach who specializes in personal branding is working with a client who wants to improve their online presence. The coach also runs a side business that creates and sells website designs. So how do you handle the situation when the client asks for recommendations on improving their website? And I put this in there because this is what I do. I have a marketing agency that works with the business coaching. And so I make these recommendations all the time. So you can recommend your own website services without disclosing that it's their business, seeing it as a win-win situation. Or you can inform them that their own business and provide, about their own business and provide several other recommendations, ensuring the client can make an informed decision. Or you can decline to provide any recommendations, citing it's outside the scope of their coaching practice. Which would you do?
I would do C. Because even if you told them about your business, they may feel pressure to consider it. So I can see there being another option, which you would make recommendations if they're looking for, because you have expertise, but I would be completely out of the equation. So in this 3 choices, to me, C is the obvious answer.
Do
Bonnie,
B
how
and
about
let
you?
their own mind.
Sorry?
So I'd do B and let them make up their own mind.
Yeah, so I follow B. Because
Yes,
again, I
yeah.
have consults with, I'm a business coach and I'm a marketing coach and I have a marketing agency. So, but I don't want to corner people either. So I will say, we do offer this in my marketing agency. And then here's a couple other people that we work with because, we don't, coaches, we all work together. And so do we on the marketing side. Everybody works together. Like we want to help the clients the best as we can. And so we refer to each other. So I have a list of people that they can go to that are in the semi, price range as I am so that they can get, a feel for who they want to work with. And I actually ask them to interview people because even though,
I find B uncomfortable because I
and
feel,
that's fine. Yeah.
yeah, because I feel like if this was a question on the test or whatever, to me, the answer would be C, because again, you don't want to be in a position of authority, pressure and all of that. And they might now feel that they have an obligation. Again, I'm talking if you're doing ICF coaching, not business coaching.
Right.
And so as an ICF coach, I don't want them to feel like they are now in a position where they have to take me as an option, as a possibility.
But you
And if they
likely
don't like my work, or they're unhappy with the work, it affects the coaching relationship. So to
that's the
me,
case. If you're an ICF coach and you're not providing business services, then this is not likely to come up in
Yeah, it's probably not going to come up
well,
unless you have.
well, no, I mean, I have coaches, clients, I mean, and different, not necessarily map to map, but I'm a strategy consultant. And so, when they're trying to figure out stuff or trying to hire people, I can be like, I have some candidates for you, or I do this as my other business. So it might not be a mapping to this exact case, but I feel
Right.
like I need to be
Well,
clear on why they hired me.
yep.
And so I don't ever want them to feel like there is an obligation.
Yeah, and that's like I said, it's valid, and that's your comfort level.
Yeah.
But ethically, as long as you are giving choice, then it's okay.
it's
If you're
about
not giving
informed
choice,
consent,
that's a problem.
right? Like that the standard is informed consent. Do they know the parameters that they're making the decision around? And we have to make sure that we have facilitated that is the
Right.
most important thing.
Right. And I'll also just be honest. Like if somebody is in a coaching session and brings up something like that, I will say, we can set up a different call to talk about that because that's consulting and done for you services that I do offer, but I also have other people that can help. That's how I frame it. And so I take it out of that coaching session. And if they want, we set it up. And sometimes they don't even set it up. And so they'll go to somebody else because maybe they're uncomfortable, which is fine. Like I said, as long as you're giving choice, and I like that term, saying informed consent, then you're okay ethically anyway, but you have to be comfortable, obviously. 3, during a coaching session, your client who is a young entrepreneur consistently or constantly seeks your approval before making any decision, indicating a power imbalance or a possible one. So how do you address the situation? Acknowledge their need for validation, but encourage them to trust their own judgment and decision-making process. Reassure them that seeking approval is a natural part of the coaching process and continue as usual. Take charge and make decisions for them, asserting your role as the coach and the coaching relationship as it seems the client is not ready to be coached.
A.
A.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
So one of the analogies I use, which a lot of ICF people adopted is, and I talk about the difference between coaching and consulting, is that when you come to a crossroads and you need to make a decision, if you hire me as a consultant, I get to tell you whether to go left and right. If I hire you as a mentor, or advisor, I get to tell you my experiences and what decisions I made. If you hire me as a coach, I don't get to vote and I don't get to influence. I help you explore everything there is to know about going left or right, but I don't get to vote. And the analogy I use real simply is, if I lift the weights for you, you don't get any stronger. You hired me as a coach, not a consultant, because you were looking at the opportunity to grow as a leader, not have some, yeah. So anyway, that's my spiel, is about the weightlifting. If I lift the weights for you, you don't get any stronger.
Good. All right, next part is responsibility to practice and performance. So ethical obligation of coaches is to maintain a high standard of professional conduct. So it includes commitment to ongoing development, ensuring our coaching skills remain sharp and up to date. It also involves strict adherence to the coaching agreement, establishing clear mutual expectations with clients for a successful coaching relationship. So commitment to maintaining high standards of professional conduct, participate in ongoing personal and professional development, and setting clear agreements and managing those expectations of clients. So how can we ensure that our personal development aligns with evolving needs of their clients in the coaching industry? Well, how we do that is we look at
and you have a
like
typo.
this.
You have a typo there. It's you have reflection.
Where's that at?
It says, instead of reflection, it's reflection.
Oh, there we go. I'll have to update that. So how do we ensure that we align our personal development with the evolving needs of clients? Well, first of all, we look at, are we doing things like this course to learn coaching skills or learn ethics or expand coaching skills or expand ethics? Are we doing things that will help us to help clients better? And then also to help us, because even personal development helps us to become better coaches. So even if you're not doing anything skill related, coaching skill related, but we're doing things to help us become more balanced, or we're doing things to help us more focus, create more focus or more awareness or what have you. Those things are all part of professional development, even though they're a personal development side, they help us on the coaching side as well. And then responsibility to professionalism. This is just basically where we're focusing on our behavior, integrity, and the image that we present to people, both inside and outside the coaching arena. Basically how we carry ourselves, how we interact with others, and how we uphold those ethics and standards. Main points to consider are upholding the profession's reputation. So this means that we're not bad-mouthing coaching in general, but definitely not bad-mouthing other coaches. And I see so many people do this. Again, they're typically not ICF coaches or, professionally trained coaches. And I personally can't stand when somebody puts down coaching in general, the industry in general. And I try to always make it a distinction between, are you talking about ICF trained coaches? Or are you talking about somebody that just one day put a sign in their window and said they were a coach, right? Because there's different levels of coaching. Personal integrity, so making sure that we align our actions with ethical commitments, and then role modeling. So as an example, we carry ourselves and we're an example of ethical behavior. And just something to think about for yourself is, in what ways can your personal values and professional ethics intersect? Because our values drive our actions and our behavior. And then we have responsibility to society. This is where our coaching ethics really looks at a broader impact of how our coaching can impact individual clients as well as society in general. So ethically means that we strive to make coaching accessible to diverse populations, that we use coaching to empower individuals to make positive contributions to their communities, and that we respect social differences and work towards inclusivity, which I talked about in all coaching practices. So something for you to reflect on is, what role do coaches play in promoting social responsibility, and how can coaching contribute to societal change? And there's lots of ways for us to do that. Even just becoming a part of your ICF chapter and taking part in their activities, or volunteering at a a charity event or something. Like, there's lots of ways. Something small, showing up at a school and maybe doing something for a classroom. There's just every little thing can help to promote societal change. Anything, and then if we do have really strong convictions, acting on those convictions in an ethical way can also definitely drive change. And then I just have some best practices here. When referring out, we want to explore the ethical considerations and best practices. When we have to refer a client out because they're not a fit for coaching. So there's a main thing that we want to look at. Well, it's not main, it's one of the more important things, is to recognize that the quicker that we act on a possible problem, the quicker there is earlier intervention. So when you see some evidence, or you start to have a little nagging feeling about something, that's the time to act on it. Not like, oh, I'll see what happens next week, or I'll see what happens in the next session. It's time to take action, and take action might be just asking a question, or acknowledging that you're hearing something, or you're having a funny feeling about something, and asking the client an open-ended question and have them expand on it. So there's a scope of responsibility that we have. We have to have a clear understanding of our own professional boundaries and limitations, and things that are outside of our scope, so that we can refer out when needed. So any kind of therapy, psychotherapy, counseling, advising, consulting, or mentoring gets referred out. Now, that's not to say that you can't be a coach consultant, because there's plenty of people that do, but your clients need to know what role you're in. And if you're going to be even a coach therapist, there's plenty of therapists that combine coaching with therapy. But your client needs to know what role you're in, and it has to be done in a way that is not confusing to them. And that might be as simple as saying, for the first half hour, we're going to do our therapy session, and the second half hour, we're going to coach. And so that they know that distinction. Sorry?
Because I was wondering with this, if I was coaching and then realized that somebody needed therapy and they wanted to work with me, my thought was to either finish the coaching session or not, and then do a therapy contract with them, and all of this and another date, and a whole new hat, a whole new context.
Yeah, so when you see that in the session that there is a potential for a need for therapy, you take that outside of the coaching session and have a different consult for that.
Yeah, so that's where.
And then
separate.
Yes, and then during that consult, you can this is up to you. Some people will do total separate sessions. Some people will drop the coaching altogether. They'll do the therapy first, and then they'll revisit coaching. There's different options. Some people will say, well, you can do a little bit of both, right? So there's a need here for both. So we'll do separate sessions. You'll have your coaching sessions and you'll have your therapy sessions. And then some people say, well, because of whatever the goal is or the challenge that's happening, it might make sense to have it in one session, but we're going to separate it out. We're going to say the first 30 minutes, we're going to work through this problem, whatever, learn how to manage your emotion around this, or whatever the case is. And then we're going to coach through the actual action items you're going to take, action steps you're going to take. So
yes,
it doesn't matter.
I have a client that I'm both coach and consultant for, and we just are very clear, like, as CEO, and he, when he wanted help on something specific that is my subject matter expertise, I make sure we close out the coaching.
Yep.
Right about that,
just,
and then we can get into, the expertise area.
Yeah, that's all we need to make sure that we do, is that we're very clear about that.
Yeah, I even say, okay, so am I taking my coach hat off? Are we complete here?
Some people do that too. They talk about the hats.
Yeah, I do the hats, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So some ways to recognize red flags, and this is ways that we can kind of tell that they might need some support. And you can, this is about identifying it and then exploring it. It's not like you're going to say, oh, they have a change in mood, let me refer them out. No, it's like, okay, so there's something going on because they're getting angrier and angrier with each session. Or wow, their anxiety seems like, like last week they were anxious and today it's like through the roof. Like you're noticing things. You're going to have a discussion with the client, because it could be situational and something that will resolve itself. And it may not be a mental health problem or any other kind of problem that you would refer out for. But some things to look at are changes in mood, excessive feelings of worry, nervousness, ruminating thoughts, constantly on edge, not sleeping enough or sleeping too much, isolating themselves from family and friends, racing thoughts, feeling hopeless, changes in eating patterns. So they're eating too much or they're not eating enough. They're obsessively thinking about food, or maybe extreme weight loss or weight gain. And then suicidal thoughts or ideation. These are things, again, that you want to keep a lookout for and have discussions around. And if,
Depression test. Those
sorry?
are those items are on the PHQ depression test.
Yeah. And then you want to have the discussion, and if it's any indication that it's something that's going to continue or that the client really needs help with, that's not situational, it's going to resolve itself soon, then you need to refer out. And having a referral network actually helps. So making like connections with other professionals can help you to easily refer out the client. The caveat there is that you don't want to refer to any one person, unless it's somebody you really know well, because if something bad happens with them, you don't want them to come back to you. So you have to protect yourself as well when you do this, but you might have a resource list available that you give to clients. And so Recovery Nation is my nonprofit, and it's about addiction. So there's a lot of mental health pieces to it. And so we have a list of resources that we give them and online, and then we might look local if they say they want to go in person. And we might give them a list that way, but we never give one person. We might say, here's a list. We work with, the first and the second person on there, but we encourage you to interview 3 different people, before have consults with 3 different people. So you just have to be careful how you present things. So give them options. Communicating with the client. So you want to be sensitive to what you're hearing and the questions that you're asking, but remain calm and positive. Be specific about your concerns. Give examples. Don't give a general feeling. Give examples of what they said or an action that they took or something that's triggering this time for you to, that you're inspecting what's going on, right? That's generating some of these feelings for you. And then ask open-ended questions to promote awareness for them. Discuss. If you have to refer out, you have to discuss it, right? It's not like we're not saying, oh, I have to refer you out, or, oh, you have to go see a therapist. And then we just drop the client, right? We want to make sure that we're transitioning things and we're supporting them through this process. So discuss how the referral might be handled, respect their decision to follow through or not, right? Because unless they're in danger, because it's up to them ultimately. So you won't continue to coach somebody that's not helping themselves if they need mental health or any other kind of help. But you can't force them either. So you can give that recommendation. And what I typically do is I'll say, I really feel like, I give the examples, we have the discussion. I say, I really feel like it would be best for you to go see a mental health professional and see if there's a diagnosis there. And let's set up an appointment after you speak to them, and then we can discuss it. So there's a follow-up there. If there wasn't a diagnosis, then, we might have a discussion of how we might continue to work together. Or if there was a diagnosis and the therapist says, or the psychologist or whatever says, coaching might be a good supplement for the therapy, then we can talk about that. But there's always that follow-up piece.
So here's a question. If you get into this situation and you're not sure, can you reach out to ICF and ask for guidance? Is there a way to get guidance on this?
If you're not sure of the situation?
Yeah, like for example, okay, they let's say they decide not to get therapy or not to talk to somebody, or and you're not comfortable, let's say you're in a gray area.
You wouldn't coach them. It's not really a gray area. You don't want to continue with somebody that needs mental health help Because what
Okay.
happens is, even if you're not doing any mental health, obviously anything around mental health, they will start to rely on your sessions as some kind of direction for them, right? Or some kind of, in their minds, they'll start replacing that need for a therapist, and they'll say, oh, well, I have a coach. And that's where we don't have any control over that. We would not be able to support them and keep that power dynamic and that safety in place. There's
Okay.
just no way to do it.
You're increasing your exposure too, as far as your
Yeah.
insurance is concerned. So there's
Yeah.
farther reaching implications.
Yeah, it would just be something that you wouldn't do. You could, like I said, you can set up follow-up appointments. You can even work with, as long as the therapist or the psychologist or whoever it is says it's okay and finds it beneficial, you can continue to work with the coachee. I mean, we've done that with Recovery Nation. They'll say, oh, you work, because we work with life visions and goals, along with changing patterns and behaviors. So it works well with therapy. And so the therapist might say, yeah, if you can continue working on the vision and the goals and the action plans, then we'll work on the mental health side and whatever action plans or actions they can take on that side. So we've done that, but it has to come from the therapist. We're not the one driving that.
We do that in therapy too. I work with Rula, and I do the counseling piece and the goals, and then they will often have a psychiatrist who's working with the medications and things like that. So the two of us share our notes. We can see each other's notes.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like I said, we do that as well with Recovery Nation. And we don't share notes, but we do share updates. And so the client agrees to that we have a conversation and have updates. Okay, so the next thing is to know when immediate intervention is needed. So this is where a referral is not enough and where you have to take immediate action. And it's like calling emergency services or the police, or it could be a family member. Like, again, for Recovery Nation, we take an emergency contact as part of our intake form, because if something comes up and we feel like they're going to harm themselves and they're not going to go to the emergency room, or they're not going to go to they're not going to call the suicide line or whatever it is, then we can call that person, the emergency contact, and ask them to go over there and, do something. So we always have that emergency contact on our intake forms. But anytime you feel like they're in danger of harming themselves, harming others, extreme mental distress, extreme physical distress. And then there's some questions here that you can go over, but a client who used to be very engaged, they're becoming withdrawn, and they mentioned feeling stuck and hopeless about their life in general. High stress levels, where they're facing a high level of stress at work, and mentions having frequent headaches and losing sleep over a project that's causing them anxiety. So, how can you support the client in those ways? And that might be asking questions around, what can they do to alleviate some of this? And if they can alleviate it, then maybe it's a referral out. The hopeless part, stuck and hopeless, that's definitely words that you want to listen for that would indicate a referral out.
It's red flag.
Yeah, red flag. And we're gonna have to break in 5 minutes to keep on time here. So the other thing I want to show you is in the portal. There is a document. Where is it?
By the way,
It's called referring.
I still don't have anything in my drive.
Oh, well, I still don't understand that part, but maybe when we redo the other part, that will also fix. Because I am setting up that whole inside part. We'll see if that works. But those documents should be in there. All right, I'm gonna, well, I had somebody looking at it today, so maybe they'll have an answer for me too, but I'm gonna share my screen. This is in there. Hopefully it becomes available to you. And I wonder if it's a permission thing, actually, now that you said that. Let me look at the permissions and see if that's the problem. Because none of the other cohorts had that problem. So I want to see, maybe it's a permission thing that we haven't given you permission for it. But this is a document that should be available to you, and it's just referring a client to therapy, and it's a set of guidelines. And it's it's 22 pages, so it is something that you want to read. Take your time reading, but it talks about coaching versus psychotherapy, why refer, when to refer, signs for referral, how to refer, after the referral, emergency situations, confidentiality guidelines, general resources, and some notes at the end. Very comprehensive.
I have
document.
that when I go through, like when I'm at lesson chapter 2, it's in there, that part's in there, yeah. So they're in the
Okay.
chapters, they're just not in the drive below when I scroll
Okay.
down.
Okay, good. So at least it's in the chapter. It should be in the drive too, but again,
Okay.
I'll look at that and try to figure that out. So you have that. There's also this document that's an easy thing that you can print out and keep, around you. But basically, it's a cheat sheet. So why ethical responsibility, coaching outside the coaching scope, intervention is important to recovery. Intervention may save a life when issues outside your competency and experience level, issues interfering with daily functioning, issue is a barrier to making progress, psychological in nature and deals with deep-seated emotions, be direct and calm, express concern and care, point out specific behaviors, listen closely, encourage client to seek help, normalize therapy, and make referral. Some things to look at: marked changes in mood, decline in performance at work or school, withdrawal from social relationships and activities, changes in weight and appearance, disturbances in sleep, excessive hopelessness or suicidal thoughts. And then emergency situations, call your local emergency. Well, obviously, if it's not your local, it's their local. Stay with the person until help arrives. Stay on that line, stay on the Zoom, stay on the phone, whatever it is. Ask what means they have that may cause harm. Like, do they have a gun in the house? Do they have a knife in the house? Whatever. Like, you want to, this is typically for, like, if you're going to call the local emergency number or their local emergency number, you can say, I have a client on the line. They have a gun available to them and they've expressed that they want to hurt themselves. So it gives the responders some information. Ask what means they have, again, to cause the harm, and then listen, but don't judge, argue, threaten, or yell. That's not going to be very helpful. And then you can also just in general, again, in our Recovery Nation documents, we have these numbers available to them, and some in the US as well. So it's just there in case they need it. They can just pull it up and it's there, it's there. They can act on it. No. Okay. All right, so we're gonna take our break. It's 7:30. We're gonna take 15 minutes, 7:45, and then we're gonna come back and actually it's 10 minutes because we're gonna listen to it and then we have to do the feedback form. So we'll do 7:40. So we'll be back in 10 minutes. Thanks.
All right.
Okay. All right. Hopefully, oh, there we go. Okay. So
How did that go so fast?
it does, it goes very fast.
I answered it.
Um,
What the heck? That's crazy.
okay, so you want to get the feedback markers, the marker feedback form. And I'm going to assign, let's see, we'll have, Bonnie, you're going to look at core competency 3. So you're going to look at those 4 areas: the focus on outcome, the measures of success, the importance and meaning, and needs to address.
Hang on, let me find the document because I don't have it printed. It's on my computer. A sec. PC markers. Okay, so. Oh,
You have the feedback form that has the space for you to take notes.
yeah, but I didn't want to write on it because I needed to keep. So I have just the non-feedback form, just the info only form. So I'm looking at competency what now?
3.
Okay, so I'm watching for the markers in 3, establishes and maintains agreements.
Right. And there's 4 pieces to it.
And
3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4.
and what is it that I'm going to do? So you're going to play something, I'm going to listen.
Right. And you're going to see, well, the feedback form has a thing where you choose, yes, they did that, they somewhat did it, or they didn't do it. And then just comment on how you saw that happen or not happen.
Okay.
I mean, I can do you want to put the form in the
Yeah, that would help.
chat? Because then you can just, you can save it on your computer and just do it on your, it's a PDF fillable. So
Have it somewhere.
let's see.
I got too many pieces of paper all over.
And which one for me, so I can print it out? The page, which section am I gonna do?
You are going to do, let's do 4. We'll just go in order, and this way next time we can do, 5 and 6. We'll just do it that way.
Okay,
So
I'm
you'll
gonna
do
print-
4 and Bonnie will do 3. Okay. Let me get over there and
Okay, give me
share.
1 second, because I'm gonna print that one
Yep.
page. And I just have to walk 20 feet to my printer once I see it's going. Okay, I hear it. I'll be right back. If it comes out, can you bring it to me? Okay, our printer is screwed, so I can't do it. So I'll just have to read them, and I can keep them open on the screen, right? Because
Oh.
um yeah, because we're just gonna be listening to the call. Okay.
All right, here we go.
So what would you like to explore in today's session?
Okay, so I'm doing this. I'm currently engaged into my master's program, which is a 3 years program, and this is my last year. And this has been quite a rigorous program. And this last year is more about the research submission, the thesis submission, basically, and then the defense presentation, and then wrapping up and meeting all the criteria that needs to be met before I graduate. What is really happening is that while I have my work set up, I'm currently working, and I also have my academics to look into. Right? Well, this was a conscious decision to keep working during this period and opt for the studies. But of late, what is really happening as I'm nearing the time? So June is when I have to appear for my exams and presentations. As I'm nearing the time, I feel that I'm slowing down. I don't have that speed as I used to have. And maybe I felt that I'm overwhelmed with a lot of things that's happening. And I also understand that the speed that I'm working with is not serving me. Because there are many things that I need to look at. I need to finish my writing, then wrap up my research, and then work on the findings and the editing and a lot of that as well. But I don't know. I just I think I don't have that momentum anymore, and I'm unable to figure out what's really happening. Is it because I'm sailing through that uncertain phase? So am I feeling very uncertain about the whole thing? While one part of me knows that I'm certain about it, that I need to finish it this year. I don't want to carry forward it to the next year or maybe take a break or something like that. I have to do it this year. But I don't know why. Last 15 days, I've been in that phase where I feel I need a push, or maybe what is it that can push me, or what is it that's happening to me? What can really make me speed up? And anything that can really help me here in this phase. So with this, thoughts in my mind, I think I would like to explore this in today's session. Yeah.
So you mentioned about slowing down, overwhelm, not having the momentum, needing a push. what would be the most important to achieve in this session?
Mm, I think I would like to look at two things here. One is maybe get that momentum, that inspiration, which can really drive me forward. The second being to acknowledge, to be with what I'm going through, because there is a feeling of overwhelm. And so how do I really be centered? How do I really be grounded? So have that grounded feeling and work towards my goal, move forward is what I'm looking
And what connection do you see between the momentum to have that push and feeling grounded?
at. Hmm. I think it's about, being self-assured. When I'm talking about the stability, the centering that I'm looking at, maybe it's more about that internal confidence and that assurance that I will reach there. So there's this sense of optimism, right? That which can drive me forward and say that, okay, whatever needs to be done, but I will reach there eventually on time.
So you mentioned that internal confidence will drive you, and that's like momentum and push.
Mm, mm, mm.
When I say that, what comes to you?
Yeah, I think that would really work like an anchor. Maybe something that can anchor me into the process or into um, so maybe that anchor can give me the drive. So I know I am the driver. I mean, I am in the driving seat. But what's the support or what's the assurance that I have that maybe if I drive in a certain speed, I'll reach the destination. So that's the kind of analogy I can make right now, where I am. Yeah. But one thing for sure, I am into the driving seat. And if I don't drive, there is no chance of reaching anywhere. So I need to drive. Maybe I might get off the road or maybe lose my direction, but that anchor would bring me back. So what could that compass, maybe some inner compass, or maybe I don't know what could that be, but something uh, which could help me be on track.
And what will be the importance, and what do you see as the importance of an inner compass in achieving your goals in time?
Mm. So I think the current setup is more like that. Uh, the many demands. There are many external demands, right? There are timelines to be met. There are deliverables in terms of work, professional life to be met. There are household chores to be done. And the personal kind of life that's operating. So amidst all this, there really has to be, because this is something that I have picked up for myself. I was never trusted, this, there was never something that was forced onto me. This. So I could only, what I realized that because it's a chosen one, it has to be internal. while there is an external timeline to it, but there has to be an internal push. So maybe this internal push and the external timeline, both of these are conflicting with each other, which is really making me feel overwhelmed. So how do I set that, how do they both work in tandem, in sync? Like, okay, there is a deadline. I have to meet a deadline, but I am sufficient and capable to meet that deadline. But all that I need to do is move and not be stagnant and not be there at one, not do anything. I mean, it cannot be out of inaction. It has to be action. So how do I become more action oriented? Even feeling overwhelmed, still act.
I just love your commitment to really making this happen. You've spoken so much about action and driver and driving it. So when things are in tandem, by the end of the session, how will you know?
Mhm. I think if I walk away with even one kind of strategy, which really feels promising for now, which really gives me that, which acts as that lamppost for me for now, so that I can try that out and progress and see what it has to bring to me, I think is good enough for me.
Fabulous. So a lamppost to experiment and see how it goes. You're taking action. When
Mhm.
you have that, how will you feel?
I think hopeful is the word. Yeah.
And when you are hopeful, how does it feel in your body?
It's like a bulb all lighted up. It also feels light as I say the word hopeful. Then it feels, oh yeah, it is doable. So hopeful is doable at this moment.
And when you said lighted, and there was a smile where your teeth just lighted. I was like, oh my God. So how lighted or hopeful are you at this moment in the session?
I'm hopeful that maybe I'll get away with.
Okay,
I'll
so
take away with some.
on a, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hopeful are you about having that drive by the end of the session on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is very hopeful and 1 is less hopeful?
Currently, my situation was a 5 when I came to you, but now it feels like I would say a 7.
Really?
I would say a 7 because 5 was really a feeling of immobility. And this point in time, this is really important for me to move from that place. 7 for me is good. I mean, I would say 7 is a start point for me to move to that 10. But I cannot look at 5 as a start point for me to move to 10 because that seems quite like behind.
And where would you like to be at the end of the session?
Oh, I would really want to be at a 9.5, 10, because with that strategy, I'm really looking forward to some action to begin, to test that and also test myself.
So what do you need to address to take action, even one step? What do you need to address?
Hmm. I think there are two barriers, I would say, currently. And maybe one barrier is supporting the other, I don't know. But it feels like the first one is that it's more of procrastination that's happening. Mm. So procrastination is one of the barriers, which is more like pushing things to a later time. So when I sit writing, it's like you write 2 lines and then I'm lost, and then okay, never mind, you will get the inspiration later. So, but that later then never comes. And when it doesn't come, it's more like, okay, it's not coming, so it'll come, but it doesn't come again. So, so I would say procrastination is something. And second, um, this sense of being perfect, this sense of having that perfect 2 lines, even if those 2 lines are written. What blocks my movement forward is that, are these 2 lines sounding good enough, or are they good enough to take forward? So it's like revisiting those two again and again, and then caught up in that, it's like coiled up in it. So that again, pulls me back. And maybe then, okay, I delete those again, 2 lines, and then again. So there's a lot of time that kind of I'm sitting in those 2 lines, and then it's like, oh, I need a break now. And then so much of time has already passed by. And, oh, this date is coming nearer. So there is also a fear factor. As I say this, I sense that there's also a fear factor that kind of comes out of those two things, like procrastination and juggling with perfection.
Fear of what?
Fear of losing out on maybe this opportunity of in terms of time that I have, and losing out in terms of finishing it off. That maybe I'll have to take a decision to then maybe drop it this year and take a drop this year. Yeah.
I heard you say something where you mentioned I know this is not serving me. So you're pretty aware of what's serving you and what's not. What is making you continue procrastination and perfection when you know it's not serving you?
Mm. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not able to figure that out. That while I know these are the two things that are really these are blockers currently. But what is it that I can really do? Because one thing is definite about the quality, because I do believe a lot in quality. So one of my beliefs is that, when uh, any quality work takes time. So maybe I'm giving it the time it needs. But at the same time, I know even with that time, I'm not coming back to it the next time. So I'm really conflicted uh, uh, with with what I believe for myself will help me, but at the same time, that belief, when it's um, in reality, it's not. It feels like a lot of time wastage, and 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 also when a lot of time goes into a certain thing wherein I don't see result coming out, I feel that maybe let's move on to something which will give me result. So also I think there is this I'm looking for this meaning uh, in something that from where I can get some instant gratification, that something which maybe can yield me an instant result. Mm. Yeah, when I say instant, yeah, but when I say instant, instant doesn't come with taking too much of load. And when I say if I want things to be faster than they are, then maybe I have to take smaller chunks. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, maybe I think I really have to um, put a boundary to what I take in a particular time. Like currently, it feels overwhelming, and nothing instantly comes out of it because it feels like a sea. So if I really make it small and mm, and maybe give it a boundary, like I only have to look at from this to this. So this is the only chunk that I will work on today, or maybe in this 1 hour, or maybe in the next 2 hours. And I just focus on that one or two things that I take, rather than looking at the whole pieces and keeping it open. So moving from one page to the other page and then going back. So it looks like huge. Yeah. And I'm reminded of this when I say instant. I'm getting this. I don't know why I'm getting this 2-minute instant noodles, which is like when you open the packet and you immediately make it. So it's like it satiates your hunger. It and you're happy about it. So maybe then if I can have a boundary and decide on how much that I have to take in a 1 or 2 hour thing, maybe that can instantly give me that, that can, my hunger, it would really work on that. And maybe that instant gratification can be my, I think, my compass, or that can drive me to take more, and try more. Yeah. Hmm. know why I'm also having this image of it's very different how I'll see a road in the sunlight and how I'll see the road in the moonlight. It's maybe a torch in my hand. So maybe what I'm looking at right now is a torch in my hand. So only see that much and move ahead. Maybe when I'm seeing the whole thing, that's overwhelming. Oh, whether I'll reach there, whether I'll reach there. So maybe just, reducing my area to a smaller one, which doesn't make me too overwhelmed. And just take that much at a time and not flood myself with a bigger one, bigger chunk. And I think can really help.
Thank you for putting that effort in exploring your metaphors. So as you talk about working in chunks, setting boundaries that could give you instant gratification and satisfy your hunger, what are you learning about yourself?
One thing for sure, I think I'm a storyteller. So so and yeah, and I think I can use how can I use more of these metaphors and stories in my work, which could make me, which could also give me that direction. I mean, even that could be the giver of direction. So that's one thing. And the second thing is what I'm learning is less can be more. It need not be more to be more. Less can also be more. So at this point in time, I think taking it in chunks, the lesser bites, I think will meet my hunger more than like gulping everything and not being able to digest it. So I think, yeah, I mean, definitely in terms of passion, in terms of vision, I am looking at taking the whole of it inside. But for now, at this situation, I think what can serve me really is to savor those little chunks that I can take one at a time and then move with it.
So in regards to taking action, how do you think we have progressed in the session until now?
I think I figured out a couple of actionables for me as I spoke to you, is that I really need to cut these pieces into sub pieces. That's something that's the first thing that I'll do. And then taking those sub pieces, I mean timing those sub pieces and just looking at those at a particular time might give me that impetus that I'm looking to move forward. Because the smaller the pieces, the tendency is to finish them. And finishing is what I'm looking at. Completion now is important. Because I've started many things, I've not been able to complete. So completion is really important at this point in time. And completion will decide my movement forward. So, yeah.
So to support completion in small parts, what will be the first step you are going to take from this session and when?
I think for each day I will, because there are many other tasks also to be accomplished during the day. On this part, each I'll take on one sub part each day and assign a time to it. And try to live up to that time. Yeah.
So considering the knowledge and the learning that less is more, and you're going to dedicate some part of your time every day to do small chunks, what support would help you take this forward?
Support. I think I will I need to make a timetable for every day and not for the whole month or whole 3 months or something like that, which I've made and get, but it's not working. But I think a timetable for every day, which is specific to that day. Like it's like small chunks, so one day at a time. So with that one day, I see how much I have finished. And maybe that can be one milestone. The second day, the other milestone, rather than putting those milestones in bigger ones in terms of months. And so I can just take it easy day-wise. So that's something, and I would really I would want to have an accountability partner, and that's what I was thinking, that who could really check on me, whether I've accomplished my day's theme, and someone who pops up is my daughter. Maybe if I make that and put it up somewhere, maybe next to her timetable, which she has, or I think she'll be happy to monitor me. She'll be more than happy to monitor
Yeah. Her dream coming true.
for her. Yeah.
Okay, so when do you think you would be giving time to make this daily timetable in your day?
So for tomorrow, I would really want to make it today. And for every day, I would make it the first thing in the morning. But I really want to give it a thought and on this conversation that we had, really sit through it and see how I can divide it into pieces today and take tomorrow as my first day again and restart. So and yeah, and start of every day, I spend some time in giving myself that the task that needs to be completed that day itself. And I don't want to lay out the timetable for the whole week or something, because I know that it's just a day that I think is currently like it is lightening me up, saying that, hey, why have I not tried this? So let's take it a day and see how it goes.
I can see when you're speaking, your statements are coming a bit faster, which shows more confidence. What do you think?
So I am feeling that this is doable.
Doable, yes.
And it is worth giving a try.
So we started with we want to feel hopeful, be doable by the end of the session. Where have we progressed on the scale?
I think I'm good at 9 right now.
Beautiful.
And I'm willing to start it So I've already have many ideas where I've started locating in my mind map as, okay, this can be cut into these pieces, that can be cut into some. Just maybe after the session, I'm going to sit and take some time, maybe with a cup of tea or coffee, and sit with it, and then, yeah.
Thank you for, I could see you putting that effort. I really admire when you were really thinking and everything was happening in your mind and you had all these metaphors coming about the moonlight and the torch and beautiful work. It was amazing to see you. Is there anything else you would like to discuss about this topic before we finish?
I think I'm good, Divya, and thank you so much for holding the space for me. It really, it seems I mean, this was very important and it really helped. This conversation really helped me see through the other possibilities that are there, lying unexplored. So I'm really excited to try and see how it works for a week.
Lovely. Thank you so much, and I look forward to our next sessions.
Thank you.
Okay. Nope. Oh. Okay. So let's kind of get right down into it. Bonnie, what did you notice about core competency 3?
I felt like all 4 of them were addressed. She asked about outcomes in the beginning, in the middle, and in the end. In terms of measures of success, she used a different metaphor. She used a compass, which sort of, to me, didn't match the language very well. But the client understood the meaning of figuring out how she reached her goals. The client sort of cycled on the meaning. Then the coach finally asked her how she'd know when her goals were achieved. So now we're getting a little more concrete, reflected the client's plan, and then asked the client how she would feel when she met the goal. So I think that's a useful question, but I didn't feel like it was specific enough. At the end, she did, on a scale of 1 to 10, where asked where the client's drive was to achieve the goal by the end of the session, but I never did figure out specifically what the client was going to do in the SMART sense, right? The measurable and all of the rest of it. Lots of meaning stuff. It was full of meaning and metaphor. I felt very circular. There were 15-second pauses, which are tough for me. So something I'm gonna have to work on. But I don't know about 15-second pauses. Needs to address. I thought she did a little bit better on that one. The coach did ask and about an action plan. The client did offer barriers, but it did not translate the metaphors into something measurable. The coach did ask what supports were needed. She did ask when questions, but I still don't really have answers from the client.
Okay. Well, we're focusing in on 3 right now.
Right.
Those are 8 that you're talking about, but I'm going to go over those.
3?
3 is there's the topic, outcome, how they're going to feel, how they're going to know what's important to address. Yeah.
Yeah. Did I not? Yeah.
Yeah, you addressed those, but then you were talking about 8. So I don't want to get into that part yet. I want to stay at the agreement.
Okay. Yeah. So she did ask, but I just didn't, I don't know. It felt unresolved. She did all 4 things. several
Yeah.
times throughout the session. I just don't know if they were resolved, and that might be because I'm not looking at the later sections.
Yeah, so for the topic, she asked, what would you like to explore? She then explored that topic, what the client said. And even tried to make a connection with the client, asking her what connection she saw between momentum and having that cushion and feeling grounded. And then she asked what the importance is.
Mhm.
And then she asked, how will you know
Mhm.
by the end of the session? She even checked in with her as far as the body, like when you feel hopeful, how do you feel in your body? So that was a good question that goes toward 6, but it was still a good question.
Mhm.
And then she does the measurement piece, which is the scale. So on a scale of 1 to 10, which is a great way to get a measurement, especially for feelings. When people they want to feel better about something, or they want to be closer to a decision, or something that doesn't seem really tangible, like an action plan. A scale can work really well. So she asked her on a scale of 1 to 10, how hopeful are you now? How hopeful do you want to be at the end of the session? And then she did check in at the end and ask her where she was on the scale. So the client wanted to reach a 7, I believe it was. And at the end, the client was at a 9, which means the session's been successful. So that was 3. Let's move on to 4. Allison.
Yeah, so I think I say yes to the first one. I saw her at least twice that she did that. Once when she was like, before she was talking about the measure of success, she's like, I see all the and that. And then at the end, she was like, I see the work and So I think twice she did that at least. Support, empathy, and concern. I mean, obviously she's very supportive, but like, I don't know if I saw direct on that, so I would almost have to say somewhat. I'm not sure that I saw an absolute like championing or empathy in that specifically. So you'll have to let me know on that one. Acknowledges expressions. Again, felt like how does it feel in your body? I don't know if that's the same as expressions. So unless I missed something, I'm not sure I saw a direct um but yeah, there were some beliefs or I mean, and she did see, maybe not the emotions, but she did see beliefs, concerns, suggestions, so I did see that one. I just didn't see it in the emotions piece. Invites to respond and accept. Yeah, she did that a couple times, like, what I see is you want to have more confidence faster. What would that look, and then the other one was about, there was something about, again, the not serving you. She did a summary and asked for that. So, I'd say the one I wasn't sure about was if she did 4.2 as a solid yes.
Um,
I mean, the whole thing,
So-
she's obviously supportive and empathetic the whole time. I don't know if you're looking for a specific question that shows that or not.
yeah, I mean, she was definitely supportive. I'm not sure. I mean, empathy can show up in different ways, right? It depends on the style of the coach and also the client. In this case, these two have worked together before. You can kind of get that feeling, right? That they've been working together. So they're not strangers. So their empathy might show up in a different way that we're not
Yeah,
aware of.
I mean, if I'm, again, if you're asking me, do I feel like she was supportive, empathetic, and concerned? The answer is yes. Do I have
Yeah.
direct evidence of that?
Right.
That's what I was struggling with, right? So
Yeah.
so that's, I said, I don't have a direct evidence except, I couldn't say, this is the quote, this is the one moment where she did that, right?
Right. Well, I will show, like, for support, we definitely have examples. We have, where she said, like, thank you for putting the effort in exploring your metaphors.
Okay,
That's support. Another area she said, where is it? Oh, thank you for putting, no, that was that one. There was another one that she said that was pretty.
I'm
Oh, I
wondering
can
too.
see you putting in the effort. I really admire when you were really thinking and everything was happening in your mind. So that last piece that she did, that support, as well as going to core competency 8. So I'm just gonna, we only have really a minute, but I'm gonna go through really just quickly the rest of them. So now this was an ACC recording. She passed at an ACC, but it was a high score. So she was just under a PCC. I think it was 2 points. So she did really well in this session. She coached the person. So she asked questions that, had the client kind of make connections. So kind of coaching the person, the who of that person. She coached the agenda, was working towards what the client wanted to work towards. She invited client choice, partnering with the client to lead the direction of the call. She was curious about the client. Most of her questions were open-ended. She gave lots of space. And I know, Bonnie, you said you're going to have to work on that. We talk about leaving 10 to 15 seconds of silence. And that's a whole chapter. We talk about silence and presence. So there's some tips that we'll talk about too to help you with that. But definitely she left that silence and pause. She customized language. She picked up on the client's language and used, her words back to her. And she explored those words. Now emotion, she asked, I think it was 2 emotion-based questions, and she could have asked more, is what I feel like. Exploring the client's emotional piece, but again, they had a good rapport. And so sometimes we have to look at the whole and not dig too deep into each competency, because it could be reflecting in a different way as assessors anyway, when we look at it. So I think she did explore, I would say, somewhat emotions. Energy shifts, there wasn't really too much energy shifts except at the end where she said,
well, there's one she said, she did say that, she said something and she noticed the energy shift and they both laughed about it.
yeah, so that's what I was going to say, except for that one area, there was that energy shift. But there wasn't a big aha moment, which typically we look at for energy shifts. She did explore some self-belief, but not too much. Didn't get too much into the assumptions or perceptions. She didn't interrupt. She summarized, but not a whole lot. I personally like to see at least another summary. She summarized in the way that she would say, "I heard you say." And I think she said that 2 times, but I would have liked to have heard have just give a little bit more succinct summary about halfway through. And then she asked about the current situation. She was kind of asking on expanding the who, and kind of expanding the what. Again, those could have been shown a little bit more, but it was still at a good level. And also the outcome, expanding that outcome. She did share her observation, and then explored how she asked the client, what are your thoughts on that, or how does that make you feel? Asked mostly open-ended questions again, concise language. She was very concise in her questions and the way she expressed herself. And the client talked more than the coach. It was I think it was an 82-78 or 82-18 ratio, so that was good. And then she did cover 8. She explored progress. She asked the client, where did she say it? Where have we progressed on the scale? So she asked her about progression in the session, and she asked her, how do you think we've progressed so far, a little bit earlier? So she did check in on that. And then she definitely covered the activities, the post-session activities, obstacles, and accountability. She celebrated the client at the end, and she didn't partner too much. I mean, she partnered a little bit, but not like very specific partnering it with the client. She did say, is there anything else you'd like to discuss? That is a way to partner with the client, but a better way is to say something like, you know, what else do we need to address to make this complete, or something that helps the client to, or is there anything else? I mean, well, actually, this I guess covers anything else that would you like to discuss about this topic before we finish. But I feel like it's more, we want to get more specific and say, is there anything else that you need in order to feel complete in this call? Or is there anything else that's standing out that we missed, or something that's going to, a little bit more specific than a broad general question? But she did ask a question on that. And then also asking the client, how would you like to end the session? That's the best way to do it. That's the easiest and best way to do it. How would you like to end our time together today, or end our session today?
So can you share where she didn't meet the PCC markers? Like, you know, if you're saying she did a little bit of everything, some things you would have liked to have seen more. So I'm confused on, so why it didn't meet the PCC markers?
Well, because there's things like the new learnings, the exploring, or applying new learnings was missing. This is off the top of my head. More questions on the outcomes. So one thing to keep in mind is it's not any one question is going to cover a lot of these markers. The questions on expanding the topic or the outcome is something that I noted was lacking. There was one question. It's, you know, I don't want to keep you guys late, but and then it wasn't each one that was there. Let's see. Again, the exploring emotions was lacking. The perceptions, beliefs, and assumptions. She did something around belief, but there's definitely space in there to, and succinct summary. There was space in there to expand on those. And then for, she acknowledged that. Yeah, those are the main ones.
I have a question on the emotions one.
Yep.
The Asian cultures tend to be more practical and logical. So it wouldn't be unusual not to explore the emotional part of it, because it's something that many express that they like to keep to themselves. They don't like to share that. They like to look and pretend like everything's fine.
Yeah, but the thing to keep, sorry, I'm just going to interrupt because we have to go. The thing to keep in mind there, though, is that the coach is trained to do that. And the assessment or the skill, you know, assessing coaching skills is based on what the coach brings and not necessarily what the client brings. So for instance, just because a client doesn't give you an opening to do a certain marker doesn't mean you get credit for that marker. You still get dinged for it.
Okay, so we need to aim for the markers in our assessment process, and we're not being assessed for, like I said, the cultural sensitivity around that during this test is irrelevant. They want to see the markers.
Right. You need to show your marker, your skill level with the markers. So sometimes clients
choose your person carefully.
That's right. You choose your coachee very carefully. And so again, if the opportunity doesn't come up, you don't get that point. So you want to make sure that, and it's all based on the points that you receive for what you demonstrate. So the coach is trained on that, and the coach can ask the question. The client cannot want to explore, and that's fine. The coach has initiated that competency, that marker.
So they don't have to reply as long
they
as
could say, you know what, I'm not comfortable doing that, or that's not a direction I want to go in. Perfect. But the coach brought it up. The coach opened that door.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to go. Thank you for staying late. And I will see you guys back here next week, read chapter 3. And I'll shoot you an email once the system is corrected, just so you know that everything should be okay. But you said that the forms are within the chapters, so that's great. It might not make a big difference to you, but from my end, I can see that it would be a difference. So anyway, I'll shoot you an email when that's done. But if you have any other questions, you can email me in between. But otherwise, I will see you back here Monday night.
and then
Okay.
got the book. So also you're reading, you have us kind of going like in order, you have us like going in like two waves.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And it's just based, you'll see as you're reading it.
Okay. I just
This
got the
is-
book today. So yeah.
Yeah, it's based on the content, really.
Okay.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a
Thanks.
wonderful night and rest of your week.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.